Episode 6 of Season 1 of Supernatural is entitled Skin. This episode is the debut episode of the Shapeshifters, and just like the demons, this episode the show wants you to forget because, if I remember correctly, it changes all the rules of the Shapeshifters that are laid out in this first episode. Welcome to my eccentric academy. My name is Caden David, or as shapeshifters call me, Mr. Cow, your professor for this class in science fiction and nerdery. For today's lecture, we are talking about the previously mentioned supernatural film entitled Skin. This is a really good episode. I really enjoy this episode, but it is another case of we create a monster, establish rules in the first episode, and later episodes say, nah, we didn't really like that version. We're gonna do the monster, but it's gonna be different. Now, I fully am willing to be corrected if I say anything wrong in this episode, because it's been a while since I've watched any later episodes of Supernatural. But I don't remember the Shapeshifters ever downloading memories in later episodes. Maybe it just never came up. Another thing about this episode is they sort of present shapeshifters in this episode as sort of being like an evolutionary branch. The shapeshifter in this implies that he is a mutant, that he was born a human, changed, and then sort of became outcast from society. That doesn't seem to be the case with what we learn in later episodes, with there being this mother of monsters and all that random shenanigans. I don't know. I don't care. The TV show was pretty bad by the time they established that stuff. But this episode is good. One thing I really like about this episode is I like its use of music. These early episodes of Supernatural really loved their music and sort of how they played with the music and how that interacted with the episode and all that stuff. It was very cool. I liked it a lot. I also like the idea of the shapeshifter taking on Dean and him taking the blame, and then sort of the way they get out of that is by killing the shapeshifter when he is in Dean's form. I think that's sort of fun, and I also really like the idea of Sam and Dean sort of running away from the law, something that will be explored further in later episodes due to shapeshifters. So that's pretty cool, and I'm excited for that episode too. That is another one I really like. And I think my biggest issue with this episode here is just the fact that Sam and Dean have never seen a shapeshifter. I'm sure that gets contradicted later on. I feel like in later episodes they've talked about times prior to season 1 that they actually did face a shapeshifter. I don't know that for sure. I can't think of any examples, but it seems like it would be the case. And this is kind of a continuity problem that Supernatural tends to have, is they'll establish monsters in season 1 or 2. They'll establish monsters in season 1 or 2, but then later on, they'll treat those monsters like they've been around forever. With all that being said, I highly recommend checking out this episode. I think it's really good. I really like this first era of the TV show. I think the monster's cool. I like the way he does that sort of lizard double eyelid blink to show us that he is the shapeshifter, which is also something I don't remember shapeshifters later on doing. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I easily could be. And I like the shedding of the skin. All that was very cool. I feel like I mentioned in my review of the episode Dead in the Water, that the episode felt like the X-Files. Watching these episodes after that review, I'm like, actually a lot of these early episodes feel like the X-Files, right? Like, you can feel that inspiration in this episode, as well as, like, the last 3 I watched. I'm like, oh, hey, this is very X-Files. And I feel like the shapeshifter monster would have fit right in an episode of The X-Files. With all that being said, I would love to hear in the comments, do you like the shapeshifters? Did you like this episode? Do you like the shapeshifters better as an evolutionary offshoot from humanity? Or do you prefer the weird, they're part of this group of monsters that were all created by a woman called Eve? I think her name was Eve. Which, come to think of it, probably the only reason they called her that is because they already had a demon named Lilith. Because I feel like the Eve character would make a lot more sense for being Lilith. And then they were like, oh wait, but we already have a character named Lilith. So I guess we'll have to just do the other wife of Adam's, Eve. With that being said, that's all we have time for today, so thank you so much for being a part of my class, and live long and prosper, my friend. And don't forget to brush your teeth. It's been a while since I've said that. It felt good. Like eating a chip that the flavor is of which you haven't eaten in a while. And then you put in your mouth, and you just have a flashback of every time you've eaten that chip. Is that just me? Oh well, goodbye.